There is so much negativity on the internet. It's probably something you've heard before. It seems like a lot of people are exposed to a lot of negativity all across the internet. And sometimes your first instinct might be to draw more attention to it or even get sucked into it yourself. It's fine to admit, I'm no stranger to this myself. But I've long seen my channel as somewhere that I want to spread positivity about games and other things. And while I don't want to do so at the cost of transparency or just giving my real and unfiltered thoughts on the things I talk about and make videos on, it has unfortunately become far too easy to get sucked into a spiral of negativity. But this is my channel, and I can do whatever the hell I want here. So I'm gonna try and do something about that to the best of my abilities. Every couple of months or so, I wanna round up a list of things that I enjoyed recently that I didn't otherwise talk about on the channel and just talk about them. No BS, no negativity, just a bunch of cool games and other things that I like and wanna show off. So let's just get to it then. Oh, and if I don't talk about something you saw me play and enjoy on stream or something like that, and you hoped I would mention it, odds are I just have plans to talk about it in some other video. I like Trepang 2.
Wow, so brave.
I know. Yeah, okay. Basically, everyone in the FPS space has been fawning over Trepang 2 since it released, so I'm not saying anything new here. But admittedly, I wasn't blown away by this game's demo like some people were. It was fine and had some pretty fun moments, but it was pretty hard for me to see the full potential of this game as the dim gray hallways of the game's first prison escape mission kind of came and went without leaving a super strong impression, feeling almost like an above average asset flip that had potential to be something more but never quite got there. I'm really happy to report that playing just a little bit beyond that in the full game, and the game immediately had its hooks in me, especially the absolute journey that was the game's second full mission, as it went from a sort of tactical infiltration and ended in an alien zombie outbreak nightmare, and basically never missed a beat the whole time. So yeah, I totally understand the hype for this one, and no, you do not need to play Trepang 1 first. Trust me on this one. I like being excited about games. That's a feeling I haven't really had in a while since, to be honest, the gaming industry has been kind of in a lull the last few years. But after Summer Game Fest and some of the other reveal conferences this past month, I am officially excited about a bunch of games again. And I'm not just talking about indie games, although I'm always excited about plenty of those. That new Prince of Persia game that kicked off the Summer Games Fest, despite getting some flack for its trailer and some choices in terms of its presentation, looks genuinely fun as hell. Like seriously, the combat, traversal, some of the boss fights just looked absolutely peak. I, for one, do not care one bit that this game is a departure from classic Prince of Persia in some ways. It just looks fun as hell to me. And the Xbox and Bethesda conference had a bunch of bangers as well, with Avowed being a game I wanted to see more of for a good while. And while the trailer didn't exactly knock my socks off, some of the things the team at Obsidian have been saying about the game since the reveal are hitting the right notes for me. Perhaps even more importantly though, Starfield looks genuinely amazing. And for the first time since probably Elden Ring came out, I am genuinely really excited to sink my teeth into a properly massive new game. And if my productivity drops off suspiciously around September, you'll know why, and it's definitely not because my wedding is also in September. I think there's reasons to maybe be skeptical or unoptimistic about games like Starfield or even Cyberpunk 2077's Phantom Liberty expansion, which I'm also pretty damn excited for. But for the first time in a long time, I just don't really feel that way. I'm honestly just excited to be excited about stuff. Now, with the big games out of the way, since that's probably not what you come here for, I'm also quite excited for a little game that kind of quietly dropped a trailer and a demo during the Intel Summer Showcase, and that game is on Garde. You can play through the demo of this one in like 30 minutes, but wow, it is just so fun. My first impression of it was cartoony pirate Sekiro with a good sense of humor due to the prevalence of a sort of rhythm-based parrying and dodging in the combat. But the more I played this, the more the game felt like it really had its own solid identity. And it also draws from things like Assassin's Creed and its movement, traversal, and even, I kid you not, a bit of Dark Messiah and just immersive sims in general with its goofy environmental interactions like kicking people into hazards, setting off explosives, and even throwing things on people's heads to distract them. It is hilarious and oh so fun. The demo is a little on the short side to really explore any of the game's systems in too much depth, but if the rest of the game continues to expand on this, I think this one is going to be an absolute blast when it releases. And on the subject of new games, and especially demos, late last month featured the June installment of Steam's NextFest, which is actually my favorite gaming event of the year, genuinely, since you can not only discover a bunch of awesome games, especially of the indie variety, but also actually play them. I saw some noise on Twitter that demos might actually hurt sales of games and that NextFest might actually be bad for indie games. I don't know about any of that stuff, but I can only say from my position, I'm so much more likely to buy a game I'm on the fence about if it has a really solid demo that I can play. And furthermore, I'm way more likely to actually talk about, cover, and make videos on games that I can actually play. So regardless if any of that other stuff is true or not, I like NextFest, and I like demos. And indie devs, please keep making demos, and please keep participating in NextFest. I will play your games, even if nobody else will. So in light of that, I want to talk about a couple of my favorite demos from this thing. Echo Point Nova from the developer of Severed Steel absolutely blew me away. Severed Steel is a game that I've talked about at length on the channel. It's a kitchen sink of movement FPS design that does a lot of things really great. In a weird way, while Echo Point Nova is more ambitious, it also feels a little bit more focused than Severed Steel, featuring a lot of the same staples of Severed Steel, like destructible environments, bullet time, blistering movement speed and tech, and just spreading it out to an honestly shocking scale, but also just tightened up into a really cool and unique flow of moment-to-moment gameplay. The game is intense, but also almost meditative as you fly between sky islands and use your ridiculous speed and array of powers to dispatch arenas full of enemies. With this all being enhanced, of course, by the excellent soundtrack by Floating Door. Since this is a demo, it's not totally without flaws, but I have basically no notes here. This is shaping up to be one of the most ambitious and impressive indie FPS games I've seen in a long time. Matt and whoever else is part of Greylock Studios and working on this game should be incredibly proud of what they've accomplished so far, and I can't wait to sink my teeth into the full thing. Do you like Max Payne? I like Max Payne. You know who else seems to like Max Payne? Strange Scaffold, the developer of upcoming game El Paso Elsewhere, as well as, well, a very eclectic and well-respected array of indie games. I haven't played any of their other games, such as Space Warlord Organ Trading Simulator, but I have heard plenty about them. And I have to say, if El Paso Elsewhere is anywhere near as good as its demo upon full release, this game is going to be another smash hit for this developer. I hate to harp on the game's similarities to another game, but I actually think it's important in this context. I grew up with Max Payne. It was, funny enough, the first M-rated game I ever snuck my way into playing at a friend's house when I was a kid. While I didn't always understand the mature themes of the game, the vibe of it left a strong impression on me that stuck with me all the way until I could sit down and play and enjoy the game again in full as an adult. The problem, of course, is that fans of Max Payne and games like it have been a bit underserved in recent years. But Strange Scaffold is not only addressing that in full, but also pouring a whole lot of their own special sauce on top. And I fuck with every last decision being made here. The story and premise is insane, but incredibly well done and presented with a shocking level of polish and sincerity. The visuals are an incredible psychedelic twist on and elevation of the nightmarish, cramped hallways and such that are a staple of Max Payne and other games like it. I'm almost afraid to say more because if any of this sounds good to you, you should honestly just go play the demo right now yourself. El Paso Elsewhere's NextFest demo has absolutely shot this game up to the top of my most anticipated games list, and I can't wait to sink my teeth into it when it releases later this year. I don't like JRPGs, is a lie I've told myself for years, when really what I meant is that I don't like bad JRPGs or boring JRPGs. Now, although Sea of Stars is not, by the most literal definition, a JRPG, Quebec-based Sabotage Studios seem to have been inspired by a similar sentiment to me when they set out to make Sea of Stars. I was drawn into this game by its art style, and I stayed for what was a pretty compelling twist on a turn-based combat system that might even change my mind about a genre that I long thought I didn't much care for. Sea of Stars has all the staples of the best classic JRPGs. Gorgeous pixel art, a lovable ensemble cast of characters, and vibrant areas to explore. But most importantly, the combat is cool and fun and feels good. You're not just issuing commands to your party, you're actually doing the actions yourself. And even though it sometimes just boils down to clicking at the right time for a little extra damage or a block, or holding down a key to charge an attack, The minor level of interactivity injected into what is otherwise a pretty basic turn-based combat system actually makes a world of difference in how engaged I feel in this combat. I like that the combat encounters don't last too long either. Each action you take feels quite impactful, and good decision making, and especially how well you execute your skill-based maneuvers, have a significant impact on combat and can turn sometimes losing scenarios in your favor with just a few well-executed actions. So yeah, I like Sea of Stars. And I might even have to start saying I like JRPGs. Seriously, if there's more out there like this, let me know. Now, I didn't just play these games as part of the most recent NextFest, but I want to give a quick shout out to Beyond Sunset and Fortune's Run. Both games that I played and covered on the channel and have existing videos on that you can watch if you want. These are both insanely fun and ambitious retro shooters, both with a smattering of pretty impressive RPG and immersive sim elements woven into their fun and fast combat. And both are, I think, releasing in some capacity this year. Both of these games have really fun and extensive demos that you can play right now. Check out my videos on them if you want to learn more, but more importantly, check out these fantastic games. Now, who is excited for Armored Core 6? I know I am. Now, I've never played an Armored Core game before, and I'm not super interested in the mecha genre in the first place, but everything I've seen of Armored Core has looked fantastic so far. From Software is one of my favorite developers, and I am absolutely stoked for this game. In the meantime, I've been playing another fantastic mech game, and that game is Into the Breach. I bet you didn't see that one coming. And outside of featuring mechs, what does this game have in common with Armored Core? Nothing, but I thought it would be a funny segue. 2018's Into the Breach is probably my favorite game I've played this year outside of new releases. I've mainly, or basically exclusively, played it on my Steam Deck, which it is absolutely perfect for. Which is a bit of a side note, but while I've had my Steam Deck for nearly a full year at this point, I did still want to shout it out. Since so much of the gaming I do is for the purpose of content creation, it can honestly be hard to separate the games I play for work and the games I play purely for fun. But the Steam Deck being its own thing that I can take to the couch or on the go has actually helped me better create that separation and enjoy a lot more games that I normally wouldn't play on stream. My time in Slay the Spire and Dead Cells absolutely shot up when I got this thing, and Into the Breach has joined the ranks of games that just feel right on the deck. Anyways, it's funny to describe Into the Breach as a mech game when it's hardly a defining aspect of it. And when I first said that, you were probably picturing an action game more in the vein of something like Armored Core. But something that impresses me so much about Into the Breach is that it takes a turn-based, pixelated, chessboard-looking game and somehow makes it feel like mech combat. Your attacks throw your enemies around, bashing them into buildings and mountains or tossing them into the ocean. Everything has this massive impact and weight to it, the likes of which I've basically never seen in a turn-based game. The turns themselves are so impactful too. You can easily go from a losing position to absolutely decimating your enemies in a single turn, just because of the ridiculous and amazing things the game's combat system lets you do. And I love it. It's another game that has proven to me that I don't actually dislike turn-based games, I just dislike boring turn-based games. I kind of think I want to make a full video on this topic, honestly. Let me know if you'd watch that. I like Doomblade, and believe it or not, that actually isn't the name of a fast-paced and gory boomer shooter, but the reality isn't that much less insane. Doomblade is what would happen if someone looked at Hollow Knight and said, "This is neat, but I wish the combat and movement was more like playing Osu." Thoughts of the utterly deranged, to be fair, but I'm happy that at least one person thought it, because otherwise we wouldn't have gotten Doomblade. It's a Metroidvania built on the simple premise of you click on your enemies to zoom to them, dealing damage and picking up momentum. You can like walk and jump and dash and stuff like that too, but that is the boring stuff. The game's bread and butter is this integrated combat movement system. It takes just a little bit to get off the ground, but when it does, you won't be touching the ground, except to phase through it as you fly from enemy to enemy in what is such a fun and fluid combat and traversal system. The game is also absolutely beautiful and has some humorous and intriguing writing. Honestly, I would have expected this one to be an indie smash hit already, but it's still surprisingly slept on, with relatively few reviews on Steam and not as many people as I would have expected talking about it. So, do me a favor and check this one out. I like Boltgun. I wouldn't have expected that to be controversial, but everyone was excited about this game right when it released, only for the internet's consensus to kind of level out in a resounding meh. But I personally like this game a lot. It maybe went on just a little too long for my taste without the third act really offering much of interest, but just more arenas to tromp through. But through most of what I played, I quite enjoyed the game's arenas, enemies, the weapon roster, and especially flying around arenas with the chainsword, which is definitely what sets Boltgun apart and really makes its combat shine. It is just an insanely fun and well-made game. I actually scrapped a full video about Boltgun that I had the script fully written for, just because I didn't have enough time to finish it before the hype for the game decidedly died down. I think I might still release the script or a half-finished version of the video on Patreon, if that's something you're interested in. But just know that I did have a lot that I wanted to say about this game, and most of it very good. And the video just got cut for time. Plenty of other content creators in the FPS and boomer shooter space have given their opinions on it, and while many have enjoyed it, I've seen a lot of cynicism about it as well, to be perfectly honest. The game is not perfect, but I just had a blast with it, and I'm happy it exists. And at some point, that's all that really needs to be said. Check out Boltgun if you like FPS games that are fun and good. The last thing I want to talk about is Prey 2017, because apparently you still have to specify, even though one game with this name is basically not for sale anywhere, even digitally. I'd like to play that one eventually too, but no, I'm talking about the one that most people know. Arcane Austin's Prey 2017. I like this game. I have a bit of a weird story with this one. Arcane is one of my favorite developers, with Dishonored and Dishonored 2 being jointly my favorite games, basically of all time. But for some reason, I had tried and just never finished Prey. For a long time, I would have considered it the best game that I never finished. And the reason I didn't finish it wasn't because I didn't like it. It was just that I was busy in 2017 and 2018, finishing a master's degree in architecture, and I just couldn't squeeze in the time to really properly sink my teeth into this game. I kept restarting it, thinking this time for sure, and eventually just running out of time, forgetting where I was, and having to restart until I kind of just conceded. But not only am I happy to report that I do really like Prey now that I've had the chance to play it in full, but also I like what I'm doing because it has afforded me the ability to have amazing experiences with awesome games like this. I knew I'd probably like Prey if I was ever finally able to play it in full, but honestly, life just got in the way every time. So I'm grateful to have a place where I could just play a game to just enjoy it. And yeah, streaming is different from just playing games, without a doubt. But I am grateful for those 4 or so hour windows I have throughout the week where I just get to do nothing but that and share it with other people. My playthrough of Prey was quite something. I'm working on a full video on it that I can't wait to share with you. And yeah, that's about all I have to say. This was a fun little video to make, and I think I'll keep doing these just to periodically highlight some things I didn't get a chance to talk about otherwise. Have a good one, and I'll see you next time.